Do you own your own business, or does it own you? If you're ready to take back control of your life, kick the crap out of your way, shorten your learning curve, design your own version of success, and claim your entrepreneurial freedom, then you're in the right place. This is Do Business on Your Own Terms with your host, Bob Holdsworth.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Do Business on Your Own Terms. I'm your host, Bob Holdsworth. Welcome. We're glad you're here because today we're going to talk about why losing $400,000 was great for business. And I put the list of shows together. My producer, Jonathan, looked at that and he said, I can't wait to hear what this show's all about. Now, your business is probably different than mine, and you don't have any pain in the ass clients. And not everybody has them. Over the years, I've had a few. You know what I'm talking about. The clients that are exceptionally demanding. They're never satisfied. They want to micromanage the job that you're supposed to be doing for them. Everything sucks up time. So you quote the job, or you quote the project, or you quote the delivery schedules for them on whatever it is that you're selling. Everything's complaints. The demands continue. They want to step outside the contract because they want something special, because often they're a very large client, so they figure that they have the right to be demanding. They expect that you're going to bend to them because of their size in relationship to your overall business. And you have got to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to push back, regardless of how good or bad your business is right now. Because if you allow one to do it, then you'll have to allow two. Then your employees will see that the rules that you've set, or the structures or the systems in place, can get circumvented. And there's a whole host of things that just cascade away from you making a decision to let this one slide. Now, we had two of them, and we were on the phone with them every single day. We had staff specifically assigned to manage their contract. Nothing was ever done right, even though we could show them that we were complying with the contract, but exceeding our compliance of the contract, that we were doing everything that they had asked us to do, and that we were actually throwing some extras at it that we chose to do it. Never good enough, no matter what. And because of two completely different things, one item for one client, one item for another, they decided that they were going to leave us, and they gave us their notification that they were leaving within 14 days of each other. Their revenue to the company totaled just about $400,000. Now, at the time, we were a $1.9 million company, and now we've suddenly, with the stroke of a pen, basically, 2 pens, we're rolling back to $1.5 million. We got everybody together in the office, and it was time to regroup, time to get in front of not only what are we going to do as a business to deal with this, but we also had to deal with getting in front of the potential public relations issue, because of, in our particular case, it was a small group of clients in the state. There were probably only 90 clients. We had the lion's share of them, but word gets around fast. Anytime something bad happens, people love to spread bad news more than they like to spread good news. So it's guess what happened? So in addition to not only having these clients that were just real pains in the butt, we also had kept on employees to manage those accounts that the client liked, and the client indicated that they wanted those employees to be retained to manage their account. Come to find out, and in retrospect, which is always the best place, armchair quarterbacking from behind, at the end of the day, the reason that they wanted those employees to stay was because they had figured out how to bully them and how to push them around. And unfortunately, this is a live and learn for me. I had allowed that to happen, and I will not allow that to happen again. But these are employees that you normally would have let go. Counseling really didn't work and that kind of stuff. But I made the mistake, and you may have done this too, of retaining marginal employees because they had a good rapport with the pain in the ass client. You knew if you let them go, you were going to need new bodies. I didn't want to take the time to train new bodies and then deal with additional complaints from that pain in the ass client about, I don't like this new person, I want somebody else. It created a headache that I didn't want to create another one. So I took Advil, grinned and bared it, and left them over in the corner to annoy each other. Bad business decision. I would never do it again. Lived and learned. But now that we had noticed that these two clients were going to leave and the revenue was going to go with them, it became very clear that it was time for them to go. And we made the decision very, very quickly that they were in fact going to depart from our shores. And we were going to send them back into the wild to seek other employment. We still only created part of the problem, or solved part of the problem, I should say, that had been created, because those three people represented about $150,000 of the $400,000. We knew we needed to do something else. So we sat down as a management team and we looked at every single vendor relationship we had, including our lease. And I went on a concerted mission to renegotiate as much as I possibly could and get as many concessions as I possibly could. Something that you probably should think about doing anyway. But, we were kind of fat, dumb, and happy, and everything was working just fine, and kind of looked away from, those employees that were marginal, but they were keeping the client relatively happy and that kind of stuff. But we really didn't pay as close attention to the vendor relationships and some of the expenses as we should or should have. So again, learning lesson for me, went in and renegotiated every single relationship. We were actually able to get lease concessions for 2 years based on that loss of business. And I kind of intimated that we might have to break the lease and leave to look for different space. And they didn't really want us to do that because we'd been there for a long time. So they worked with us. We also ramped up the marketing machine, which again, kind of fat, dumb, and happy. We had done some marketing, but we hadn't done it with as much imperativeness, if that's the word. We hadn't done it as aggressively as we should and as consistently as we should. Again, another mistake. Harvey Mackay wrote a book a long time ago called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. That applies to marketing. Market before you need the clients, not after you just were told $400,000 of client revenue was leaving. We also looked at every single system that we had in place and reworked every system that could be reworked to be more efficient with less people, because we had just let 3 people go. We questioned everything. And it's a good process. It's something that we do on an annual basis. We look at where we're spending money now, which you should anyway. But we look at it with a little bit of a different eye, if you will, to see whether there's a better way to do what we're doing, whether we should be assigning things to different people. And we want to get those behaviors and those expenses, we want to catch them before they become institutionalized and before they become what are affectionately known as sacred cows. We've always done it that way. We can't touch that. Oh my God, don't do that. That'll never work. All of those things. As a matter of fact, Robert Kriegel wrote a great book. And if you haven't read it, go on Amazon, spend, $10 and get it. It's called Sacred Cows Make the Best Burgers. I've read it several times. Mine is somewhat dog-eared with highlighted process, highlighted notes and things like that. And as a matter of fact, it was the first book I went and reread when this happened, looking for things because I wanted to refresh my memory on, how he couches the words of Sacred Cow and what he looks at. It's a great book. Highly recommend it.
If you really want entrepreneurial freedom and you want to be able to do business on your own terms, you have to start by taking action. A great place to start is by grabbing your complimentary copy of Bob's 8 Steps to Freedom. Go to oyot.com/8 steps and claim yours today.
So again, stuff we should have been doing? Yes. Stuff you should learn from my pain? Absolutely. The results, though, were great. We were able to ramp up the marketing. We were able to deal with what we thought was going to be a large public relations issue, which turned into be almost a non-issue. People would ask the question about why they left. And I said, we parted over discrepancies in their expectation and the way we wanted to deliver the service. And again, going back to some of the things we've talked about in other episodes, I went back to my core values of the business. And when I looked at what we had been doing and had been allowing, I had violated some of those core values. And that's where we had what I call creep. You let it go once, you let it slide, and then it creeps. And then there's one thing, and then there's two things, and then there's three things. And pretty more before too long, you are in a situation where those core values are not being adhered to, and you end up with a problem. So went back to the core value, swore we would not get off that track again, have not gotten off that track again. That was about 10 years ago. And we have done exactly what we said we were going to do from that point forward, or had done it. At the end of a 12-month period, we had only added back one of the 3 staff we let go. We'd only backfilled one of those positions because we had gotten more efficient. We had employed some technology that made sense. Our margins were actually up because we brought in new business. We were able to do it more efficiently. We were able to put that revenue back and more. Actually, at the end of 12 months, we went from 1.9 to 1.5 and then went back up to $2.1 million through applying these principles. We were better prepared in case there was another departure storm, or in case we had another large client that left for whatever reason, went out of business, decided that they were going to get a better deal somewhere else. We reworked our business plan and our model and went back to our core values and decided that this is stuff we were just not going to tolerate. We weren't going to tolerate being abused anymore, regardless of the size of the client. And that's exactly what we had been allowing those 2 clients to do to us. We had allowed them to bully us. We had allowed them to really abuse us. And the morale went up in the organization because we didn't have to listen to all of the crap that went along with those 2 contracts. We kicked it to the curb, if you will. We identified clients that we did not want to work with again. And interestingly enough, one of the clients intimated about 5 years afterwards that they at least were thinking about whether or not they were going to make a change again, and we might get an RFP or a solicitation to bid on the business if they decided to outsource it again. And because of our values and because of what we had decided as a company, I was able to say in the same meeting to the CEO of that company, please don't put us on the bidders list. We're not interested. I appreciate thinking of us, but I do not want to repeat history. And I know that 2 of the people that were involved in the issue to begin with are still within your organization. So I appreciate it, but thanks, but no thanks, which was actually felt really good to do, but it caught him completely by surprise that anybody would even remotely talk to him that way. So you have to be able to do that if you truly want to do business on your own terms. It was a hard lesson for me, but it was a good lesson for me because now the lessons that I learned, that our team learned, I get to share with you, I get to use myself, and it makes for a much happier working relationship with people. We also instituted leaner and tighter controls. Again, to some of you, you're going, well, duh, you should be doing that. But we didn't. And every business owner makes mistakes. And part of the show's philosophy here is I want to shorten your learning curve. So if I've got the arrows in my back, you don't need to get them in yours. So we also decided that we were going to grow and go back from the $1.5 million position they put us in. We were going to grow with the right client mix. So we targeted specifically a series of smaller clients that would be better to work with, but in aggregate would put all of the money back and would now not have us in the position where a large client could leave and derail us again. We did take larger clients. We still do take larger clients. However, we crafted the mix differently, which goes back to some of the things we've already talked about who you will work with, who do you want to work with, who can afford to work with you and what you're offering, and target those particular clients. So the good news is we got it all back and plus, so we actually went up $200,000. So when you look at the overall scenario, it was great. It forced us to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. And part of being in business for yourself often involves a little bit of learning with some pain. Hopefully you can avoid the majority of that. For you and for me, as I was preparing this, I was rereading it for myself. But the takeaways from this that we should all be, writing down and thinking about: don't keep clients or staff for the wrong reasons. Know why you're keeping them. Know that they are congruent with you. And you guys have probably heard by now that I love the word congruent. It shows up in about 4 of the 6 shows so far, at least once. But if they're not congruent with your why, they're not congruent with your core principles, they don't understand what you're doing as a company, or they don't want to work the way you want them to work, in the case of employees, it is time to allow them to move on. They don't need to be part of your organization. This goes back to being ethically selfish. If the world is not revolving correctly the way you want it to revolve, and someone is, causing that thing to be off kilter, get them in line, get them to see the point and the value and why you want them to do it a certain way, or remove them as quickly as you possibly can. And there is an old adage, it is hire slowly, fire quickly. I have been guilty of not doing that at times. I can honestly tell you that I won't be guilty of it ever again. It hurts too much and it takes its toll out on me as an owner, you as an owner. It's not worth it. Second takeaway is don't allow pain in the ass clients to infiltrate your castle walls. If you take that client, the little voice in your head is saying, I'm not so sure we should do this. And you say, no, I know best. We're going to take them. They'll be fine. And you realize that they're not. It's sort of like, when you start dating somebody and you think you can change them or you think you can fix them, only to come to realize that you can't. They came with baggage. You're going to have to deal with the baggage. So when you let them inside your castle walls and realize that that baggage is a ticking time bomb, open the castle walls, put down the gate over the moat, and push them out. Thank you very much. Don't think this is going to work out. Always do business on your own terms. Knowing what those terms are allows you to make those decisions. And the thing that we all forget to do because we don't have enough time quite often to work on our business, we're working in our business, putting fires out, etc. You need to take time to back up, look at your business regularly for better, faster, smarter ways to do things, more efficient ways to do things. And if you are, a small business with a couple of people, look to where you can outsource some things that are not the highest and best use of your time. You've heard that a couple of times as well. I do that regularly. There are just some things that you shouldn't be paying for with bodies in-house and overhead. You should outsource them. There are certain things that you should not be doing at all. You should have an expert doing them. Lawyer work, accounting work, website design work. Those are all things that unless you are a web design company and that's what you did before you opened your own business was work for somebody else, that's not stuff you should be spending time doing. And it's not going to enhance your relationships with your clients. Understand it so you know you're not getting taken advantage of, but don't be doing it. So that's about the time that we have to spend together today. I appreciate you tuning into this edition of the Do Business on Your Own Terms podcast. Join us next week. My topic is, again, one of them that Jonathan really was interested in when he saw the list was, if you do what the others do, you're an idiot. My hand is raised right now because I've been an idiot. I choose to help you not to be one. So until next Wednesday, remember, if you're going to do business on your own terms.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.